All right, fellow babies, welcome back. It's the Pach-Attack. We have a question from Twitter at Nick Gap. You know, I've got two associates. They're both named Nick. Go figure. I hope you're not one of them. What is a fair salary for a CEO of a company as successful as Activision? Links to article. Kotick makes $64.9 million last year, 8 times last year's salary. Second highest paid among U.S. public company CEOs. Oh gosh, here's a lesson in executive compensation. I think that corporations should offer their CEOs compensation that kicks in when shareholders get wealthy. So if you go to work as a CEO of a company whose stock is trading at $10 and you work there 5 years and the stock never budges and it stays at $10, shareholders made nothing. So I actually think you should make nothing. Now again, I'm making a very simple example. But if you go to work for a company that stock is at $10 and the share price goes to 15, and you start out, let's use Activision because that's a pretty good example. Their stock was at 10 not so long ago. They have 1.1 billion shares. So Activision was an $11 billion company. Bobby was the CEO, that's Activision's Kotick. Bobby was the CEO as that stock rose just about $5. So $550 million of, I'm sorry, $5.5 billion, my bad, I did the math wrong. 1.1 billion times 5. $5.5 billion of wealth to Activision investors. If investors made $5.5 billion, and do that math, 5,500 million, 64 million is, you know, a little more than 1% of that. Now, I actually think that's a lot of money. I don't know, last time I checked, 64 million, pretty good. But I get it. So I don't know what's fair. I mean, I think that if you looked at the public filings and how Bobby made that money, it was primarily from appreciation on his shares. I think Bobby has something like 6 or 7 million shares of Activision. So, you know, let's call it 6 million. So 30 million of that was probably just appreciation of his own stock. And I think that's the right way to pay CEOs. You know, get the CEO fully aligned with shareholders so that they both have the same goals. One of the things I love about Activision, I really have to make this crystal clear. I've jokingly called them greedy, and I've said it's in a good way. That was a joke. They're not greedy. They're fully aligned with shareholders. Bobby gets that it is his job to make his shareholders wealthy. What does Bobby sell? You know, they sell stuff to you guys. So the only way that shareholders can get wealthy is if they sell stuff to you guys for more than they pay to make it. And the two ways to do that are sell more stuff or keep raising price. They do a little bit of both, but I think they've been pretty masterful about how they raise price. You know, it's been DLC packs. For a while it was Call of Duty Elite subscriptions. It's, you know, just a bunch of ways, and it's really subtle price increases, not too much. What they've really done masterfully is sold more of the same stuff. So Call of Duty, you know, ran from 6 million units about 6 or 7 years ago to 25 million units. You sell an extra 19 million units of a game at $60, that's a lot. I mean, that's $1 billion. And again, the cost of making the game didn't go up by $1 billion. It went up by, call it 100 million, 200 million, who cares? They made a lot. So Bobby has managed that business very well, returning a ton to shareholders. The thing I like about Activision's team, every single guy all the way down, Thomas Tipple, Eric Hirschberg, you know, Dennis Durkin, the CFO, they're on the same team, they're fully aligned. I think they totally get it. And my editorial comment here, investors love them. They're easy to talk to because they talk the same language as investors. Why would any investor buy a share of Activision stock? Because they believe that the management team can take that stock and make it go higher. How does that happen? Revenues grow faster than spending, more profit. So Activision's great at it, the team is great at it. I think sometimes consumers feel like they're being squeezed, but the fact is that Activision has more money than anybody. They can make bigger investments. They're going to make bigger investments. So you're going to get a game like Destiny, and it's going to knock your eyes out because they've spent a lot of money making a quality game experience, and I think we're all going to be happy that they can afford to do it. So the answer is, I don't know what's fair. I think as long as the CEO compensation is aligned with shareholders, it's a really good idea. We have a question from Twitter from @Fair90. Mr. Pachter, now that Mr. Iwata is Nintendo of America's CEO too, do you see that as an indication of certain things to come? I don't. I think it's interesting. I don't actually think that a person's title in the organization means much at all. I think that what matters is what each individual's responsibility is. And the fact is that there was another guy, I'm gonna have to go look his name up, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, but there was another guy who was the CEO of Nintendo of America above Reggie. He got promoted, he went back to Kyoto. So Reggie used to have a boss sitting in the office next to him in Redmond, Washington. He now doesn't. Mr. Iwata is not going to fly from Kyoto and hang out with Reggie. So it used to be that Reggie had a guy between Reggie and Mr. Iwata. That guy has now gotten promoted back to Nintendo Corporation Limited, and Reggie directly reports to Mr. Iwata. So if anything, I would say that gives Reggie more responsibility. Now, I've been pretty critical of Mr. Iwata in the past. Mr. Iwata, in my opinion, is doing a pretty crappy job as CEO of Nintendo. And so giving Mr. Iwata even more responsibility where he has to day-to-day supervise Reggie and Reggie's whole Nintendo of America team, I think that stretches him more thinly, and I don't think he was doing a very good job with the responsibility that he had. So we've layered on more responsibility on Mr. Iwata. I think it's fair to say maybe we're giving Mr. Iwata a chance to screw up further, but truthfully I'd say we're giving Reggie a chance to either perform extremely well or to not perform well. And I think whatever you, the viewers, think of Nintendo of America, Reggie's ultimately responsible, but he had a boss. So we don't really know if Reggie was doing what his boss told him or not. I think Reggie gets more autonomy. I'm a fan of Reggie. I think that guy's a good dude. I think he cares. I think he works his buns off. And I wonder, because I get a lot of questions, why doesn't Nintendo port games, for the Wii in the US? And they like to blame Reggie. I don't know if that's a Reggie decision or a Japan decision, but I think Reggie gets more autonomy, so maybe we'll see, a greater number of ports. Maybe we'll see a little, different marketing plan out of the US operations, out of the Nintendo of America operations. So let's give Reggie a chance to thrive or fail on his own. I think having Iwata as his immediate supervisor probably empowers Reggie. If you think things at NOA get worse, I suggest you ask a question on Pach-Attack, and I'll offer an opinion after we see how things go. We have to give Nintendo through this holiday before we can really continue to criticize them too much. I mean, we have to know if they're going to succeed or fail after they've had a full year under the Wii U's belt. The 3DS turned around in about a year. The Wii U might turn around in about a year, so let's see. So I'm going to reserve my further criticism for later on, and let's just give them a chance to kind of regroup and see if they can market this thing better, see if they can get a lot better software out. Okay, this question comes from the Ask Pac forum. The questioner is The Love for Sports. Hey Pac, if I am on Xbox Live or PlayStation Network and I look into a game on the network to buy, if I look into a game on the network to buy, if I look into is the wrong word. Yeah. I guess if I look at a game on the network to buy, does the service log what I look at? Do they know when I watch a trailer or download a trial demo? Oh my God. Okay, I'm hoping that you're really young, because I'm going to answer this as a parent, okay? When you're on any service that is connected electronically outside of your home, that might be a cell phone, that might be, anything that's interactive like a television that the signal is You know, the channel you're selecting may go through a Comcast box that's connected somewhere when you're on the internet. When you're on Xbox Live or PSN, the N in PSN tells you your network somewhere else. Assume that they're recording everything you do. It is naive to assume that someone is not recording what you do. When you are doing Dance Central on Connect, assume that that video is captured somewhere. So I wouldn't do it naked and assume that it's going to always be kept private. Now, in fairness, Microsoft and Sony are business people, they're businesses. They're run by smart business people who understand that if you compromise a user's privacy, you're probably not going to stay in business very long. So you remember the very famous PlayStation Network hack, you know, a couple of years ago. What was that? Credit card numbers stolen, you know, usernames and passwords stolen. Theoretically, you know, the hacker could have stolen those naked pictures of you from Move if had you had any. Theoretically, they could have stolen all that data on what games you downloaded or what demos you tried. But my guess is they didn't. And so the answer is yeah, every single thing you do. I would even take it down to the level playing multiplayer. Every move you make, if you go left, you know, and get shot, that's recorded somewhere. Just kind of assume that that's going on. We've all heard the stories about how there's, you know, malware that will hack into your laptop. So if your laptop has a camera at the top, you should keep it closed because they might be monitoring your home. You know, just think about that. I mean, this is the world we live in. This is where it's going. So assume everything you do is captured. Behave accordingly. Turn off the camera or turn it around when you're in the room with that new Xbox, because you might actually do something embarrassing and you don't want anybody to see. All right, fellow babies, thanks for joining us this week. If you'd like to submit a question, you can do so at the link below. If you would like to submit a question through Twitter, I have a new producer. We've decided not to make my new producer a Twitter star, so we're going to try to make this a little more antiseptic. Please send the questions on Twitter to me, @MichaelPachter, and please make sure you copy @GameTrailers and use the hashtag AskPack. Now that's a whole lot of characters. I know that's going to cut your question in half. So try to be industrious in how you ask your questions on Twitter. It's okay with us if you actually use more than one tweet to send a longer question. We'll be fine with it. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Shift slightly right there. That's.
I think that's where I'm going to be. That's where I'm going to be sitting. But I like to lean a lot because I'm very unstable in more ways than one. All right, fellow babies, you can see more episodes of Pach-Attack on GameTrailers.com, or you can click on the videos to the right of me and see some of our other shows. Thanks for joining us. This is a profit deal.
Very deadpan, doesn't it?
GT Origin.